Good evening and welcome to the City of Oxnard Planning Commission regular meeting for Thursday, December 15th, 2022. We are starting at 6:06. A quick housekeeping item. As shown on the agenda and online, please email all written public comments to planning@oxnard.org. Those wishing to speak during the meeting may do so in person or virtually. For in-person speakers, please submit your speaker card to the Commission Secretary. For virtual speakers, please view the bottom of your screens for the call-in number, meeting ID, and passcode. If you dial in only, you may press star 9 to raise or lower your hand. If you're on a desktop Zoom app, you may use the raise hand feature. You may also submit your request to speak by visiting oxnard.org/city-meetings by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. Because the meeting is electronic, all votes will be done by roll call. And with that, we'll move to our Commission Secretary to establish our quorum.
Chair Chavez,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Nash,
Here.
Commissioner Seelsdorf,
Here.
Vice Chair Arrejo, Commissioner Connolly, and Dr. Lopez are absent, and we have a quorum.
Thank you for that. And with that, we'll go to our Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Meyer, would you mind leading us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. We'll go ahead and proceed to our next item, which is public comments for items not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission regarding any items not on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission may do so at this time. However, the Commission cannot take action on any items presented during public comments and will be referred to the Commission Secretary. All public comment speakers will have 3 minutes. And Madam Secretary, just to confirm, we did not have anyone sign up?
That's correct.
Thank you for that. So we'll go ahead and proceed in our agenda to item D, which is our consent agenda. We have a total of 4 items. So what I would actually like to do first is take item D1 to D3 as one group and then D4 separately. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Is there a motion on those?
I move to approve the minutes. Second.
Thank you for that. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, can we get a roll call on item D1, D2, and D3?
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Commissioner Seelsdorf,
Yes.
Chair Chavez.
Aye.
Item passes.
Thank you. For item D4, Mr. Pearson, if you want to just briefly discuss what that item is.
So yes, Chair Chavez. So this is the 2023 Planning Commission calendar. So this has all of the dates for the Planning Commission for the next year, as well as the City Council dates, as well as the City Council committee dates. Also on there are some of the kind of planning items that or planning meetings that we hold kind of internally. We have our community workshop meetings, which are also identified on there, which we do for most projects, which are discretionary. We have our internal DAC meetings, our Development Advisory Committee meetings, which is where all projects start. And then we also have some trainings on here as well. So we do have the League of California Academy, which is a planning commissioner training. I believe 1 or 2 of the commissioners attended it last year. And we do have a training budget. So if there's interest, please let me know. And then we can look at that. And that's the 29th through the 31st. And then we also have the APA conference on there as well, which is later in the year in September. So again, this is essentially just approving the calendar for the upcoming year.
Thank you for that. And any discussion on that one? Nope. Is there a motion? I'll move. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second for item D4. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chair Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Commissioner Seelsdorf.
Aye.
Item passes.
Thank you for that. We'll move to our next item, which is our ex parte declarations for public hearing items. Commissioner Meyer?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zelsdorf?
None, thank you.
Thank you, and none for myself. So we'll go ahead and proceed to our first public hearing item for the night. Item F1, project name 2420 Oxnard Boulevard U-Haul project. This is located at 2420 North Oxnard Boulevard. Planning and zoning permit number 17-500-11, special use permit. The applicant requests a permit to allow for the renovation and conversion of an existing warehouse into a 3-story, 203,213 square foot of mini warehouse, self-storage space, storage warehouse, and retail space on an 8.86 acre site. The large parking area on the north end of the lot would provide 46 covered recreational vehicle parking storage spaces. The request includes certification of the proposed final initial study mitigated negative declaration and an adoption of the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which has been prepared pursuant to the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15063. Our city staff person is Joe Pearson II, Planning and Environmental Services Manager, and Michael Roque, Senior Contract Planner. The recommendation is A, provide direction to city staff regarding the appropriateness of the proposed projects and adequateness of the final ISM&D, and direct staff to return with a resolution providing an approval recommendation or a denial recommendation to city council. And B, continue the meeting to a date certain. Oh. Maybe I didn't have to read all that.
Chair, I move that we postpone the project to be continued to a subsequent planning commission meeting to allow staff and applicant time to gather the requested information. I think that's what's being asked of us.
Do we have a date certain planned?
So we could continue it to the first meeting in January, which would be January 5th.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Nash?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been moved to continue this item to a date certain of January 5th. Is there a second?
I second.
Second. Any discussion? Can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Seelsdorf,
Yeah, I,
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. I'm jumping ahead to make sure it doesn't say continue to a date certain. The next item is F2, project name Azul Restaurant Alcohol Special Use Permit. This is planning and zoning permit number 22-510-04, special use permit alcohol. This is going to be located at 1450 South Oxnard Boulevard. A request to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits. This is a Type 47 EBC license for an on-site consumption at a proposed 5,065 square foot restaurant on a 0.44 acre site within the general commercial zone. The project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to Section 15301, existing facilities, Class 1 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. City staff person is Joe Pearson II, Planning and Environmental Services Manager. The recommendation is that the Planning Commission find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines 15301, existing facilities, and adopt a resolution 2022-XX approving planning and zoning permit number 22-510-04, special use permit alcohol, subject to certain findings and conditions. As a reminder to my colleagues and to the public, a pre-recorded staff presentation is available on the city's YouTube channel in accordance with Measure M, and we'll turn to our city staff person with any additional information. Mr. Pearson.
Hello, Chair Chavez and Commissioners. So I do not have any additional information to share with you at this time. However, the applicant does have a presentation that they would like to give. I have provided copies of it at the dais as well as at the table up front. So we can hand it over to the applicant unless you guys have any questions for me.
Without any objection, we'll turn to the applicant team for their presentation. No objections, so we'll turn to the applicant team.
So, good evening. My name is Aldo Cesenia. First, I want to apologize if the format of my presentation is not what you're used to, because I've never done this before. I also didn't really understand fully the scope of what I had to do, so I'm kind of looking at the report and essentially seeking out to you guys why I'm hoping that you can look at modifying the times that were suggested by the Planning Commission based on the information that I'm providing. Let's see. In the report, one of the concerns was that the time that I'm requesting from 4 to 1 a.m., although alcohol is not served till 1 a.m., that would essentially potentially have my clients be going across the street to park on the opposite side of the street, potentially causing a danger or maybe taking other people's parking spots. My location has 40 different parking spots, one on each end, as well as parking spots in the back. During the report investigation, the police reached out to my neighbors and different businesses within the area. I've been there for 6 years, and none have complained about us taking other people's parking spots. So from that perspective, I definitely have a lot of parking. It's unusual for Oxnard, I'm sure you guys know. But this place has been here since, I believe, 1952. In comparison to businesses that have similar services as I do, as you know, Ruby's, which is also a restaurant, they have a total of 6 different parking spots compared to my 40, 2 of them being handicapped. This is Corner Pocket. They have no parking in comparison to my 40. I want to address also that in the report, there was a concern that I was too close to a residence. I'm zone commercial. There are 2 apartments that are behind us. Although they're zone commercial, they're probably non-conforming. I have a great relationship with my neighbors, and I'll explain why the type of dinner service that I offer doesn't really affect them. But right in front of Corner Pocket, 80 feet away, is a bunch of low-income housing. So they're in the same situation as I am, except they have many more residences versus the 2 that I have. This is Casa Lopez. Everybody knows where that is. They have no parking compared to my 40, and they post that they serve up to 500 people with no parking. One of the things on the report, there was a concern that once you start allowing people to have alcohol, that crime rates would potentially go up. In the majority of the report, all the situations are what if. So what I did is I pulled all of the calls from my specific location in 2022. I didn't know if I had to give you a copy so that I wasn't just giving you words without actual facts. So these are the actual call report. 28 of those 29 calls were made by myself or my staff. And the reason that I made the calls is because the police told us whenever there's homeless people or they're doing something, just call us. Little did I know that every time I call, I actually create a negative perception about my area. It makes the numbers that were presented to you in the report higher than what they really are. Every single one of these calls was related to a homeless person, unfortunately, or them parking their car like behind my location or living in my dumpster. I made all of the changes that the police asked me to, which was to install new lighting, get new gates, and cage my dumpster. What I can tell you in the 6 years that I've been there, We have never had an incident where something goes wrong during one of our dinner services. Um, so these are actually, I took a sampling of 7 different calls of the 29. Interestingly enough, I randomly picked one of them in there is my address, but there is a warehouse that's behind me that has parties every weekend. And it notes in there that to the rear of the restaurant, or to the rear of the business, which is the warehouse, that they had to stop the event. But it's not mine because I don't own a warehouse. But it was just coincidence that I happened to pick that call. Um, so these are just the incident reports that kind of detail what I'm talking about. I decided not to pull all the calls from 21, but I know I made the majority of them, similar to me making the ones in 2022. The report presented to you also states that in my area, the crime rate is about 2.6 or 2 times higher in my specific area than in other parts of the city. That may be true, but I also don't know how much of that is being generated just by calling about homeless people, because it boosts the numbers up. So I kind of did my research, and this is our chief of police, and according to him in the interview that he did back in April, our crime rate has gone down 18.6%. I don't know if that helps me specifically, but I'm presenting that to hopefully show you that not it's going in the right direction. So I didn't know if this was necessary, but one of the things that were noted in the staff report is that I mailed out over 5,000 letters to have people come in and give their opinion. Because I think you have to notify everybody in the area of changes. No one showed up. The report says somebody showed up, but it was 2 people from the city, myself, and my architect. So it probably doesn't matter, but the information that was presented there was incorrect. So this is probably the biggest talking point of why I'm hoping that you extend the suggested hours. When I first tried to open, I have failed 3 different times. The older crowd knows what Sal's Mexican Inn was. I don't know if anybody here ever ate there, but people had dinner there, got married, people would go Sunday, stay for hours. And that man was amazingly successful. I think it was open for 62 years. 3 different businesses tried to start after he passed away, and they failed. I ended up selling my house to purchase the restaurant because I wanted to have a restaurant. And I failed 3 different times because nobody wants to have a taco without a beer. I tried changing the menu, people would come in. So what I ended up doing is I would reach out to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, and they explained to me that under this, I think it's called a code or statute, as long as I'm having a private dinner service, which is what I've always done, and I do not sell alcohol, it's an invitation only, and I'm not open to the public, people can bring their own alcohol. So I've been following the guidelines that they've told me as long as I'm not selling. The reason that I'm bringing that point up is there's always been alcohol there. And the crime rate, at least in my area, my specific location, nothing has happened in 6 years. It doesn't mean that something won't happen, like the report says, but I'm hoping that that history shows you that I'm very careful about people that I serve because they're all private dinners, and I'll kind of explain what that is in a second. For some of you that know me, I know a few of you. I own a organization called Party Stars. That business is solely funded by our food services. Before I started food services, I've always been kind of part of the community. I do a lot of stuff for the Performing Arts Center, the Nyland Aiken Center when Mr. Zaragoza was part of the county supervisors. The Port Wainimi Parks Division, Oxnard Downtown. I do a lot of reading events for schools. All of those events, I come out of my pocket. My family has always done that. what has made it difficult is a pandemic. Money is shrinking for us. It's way hard to fund these. So we take money from our restaurant to fund these. With food costs going up almost 33%, our money is shrinking. And with the inability to sell alcohol, we're stuck. Um, Let me look here. The other thing that we do right now is there was a recommendation to allow me to sell alcohol from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. Dinner service for us is 4 to 1 or 4 to 12. So we're not open at 7 in the morning. I was told that I can be open, but what the report doesn't also explain is that I have a second permit for my food truck, which the health department is explaining that I can park in my parking spot because Sal's Mexican Inn has a double kitchen. So I meet all the requirements to allow my food truck to park in my own space with some modifications. But during the planning process, I was told that if I have my food truck there during the time that my restaurant is open, I'm not going to have enough parking spots. So if the commission approves the suggested hours of 7 to 10 and allows me to be open to during those times, which by the way, people aren't going to come and eat at 7 in the morning and have a drink, it's already going to blackball me and cancel my permit potentially because I can't have my food trucks there at the same time that my restaurant is open because then the rule of not enough parking spots clashes. So when I applied for the permit, they said, okay, what time are you going to be open? I said, well, 4 to 1. Well, the only way my food trucks can be there is they have to be there when the restaurant is open. They can't clash with each other, or I don't have enough parking spots. Right now, during the day, we feed 887 senior citizens. I am one of 2 providers for the County of Ventura, and I feed the Senior Wilson Center, Help of Ojai, the Senior Center in Simi Valley, I don't know the exact name, Thousand Oaks, and soon Port Wainimi. The challenge is the county has a very, very small budget for those meals. They're currently paying the senior centers $2.85 to make a meal. Food costs, as you know, has tripled. We all buy food. So right now I'm trying to negotiate. What is saving me is that I'm making about 880 meals 1 or 2 days a week. So even if I wanted to be open, I can't be open because I would end up leaving all these senior citizens. And I don't make a lot of money off of that, but my grandfather's also in the program. So I have a vested interest in making sure that he gets food, and everybody else is senior citizens. So I included this letter. I didn't know if I had to, but my parents kind of mentioned that if I'm gonna say something, I need to make sure that I have proof. And this is just kind of a sample email that comes to me from the County of Ventura. This Monday, we'll be delivering 567 Christmas meals to our senior citizens. Eventually, when I'm in that contract with the county, even when they pay the higher rate, the food costs are going to keep going up. There's like no way around that. Meat, as you know, is about $5 a pound for chicken. Restaurants used to pay about $1.40 for it. So I have to subsidize it anyways, and I do that by having custom dinner events. Our place, when you come by, we're not a nightclub, even though some of the people that I compare to, that's what they do, because by right, some restaurants all have a banquet room and then you can have a dinner event. We change our decorations every Monday. We strip the place down. You tell us the idea for your dinner party or anniversary dinner. One of the concerns is that, or the history shows in most places that alcohol becomes the primary thing sold over food, and you don't want it to become a bar area. And I understand that, but as you can tell, what we have is I don't run that. My business model is specifically custom dinner events based on a theme. Last Sunday, we did a Grinch breakfast for people. We had a Marilyn Monroe for a paraplegic person, and that's all we do. So what I'm hoping is that the commission will essentially maybe compromise on the recommendation that the city has for my hours. Because if my dinner services are from 4 to 1 or 4 to 12, and it stops at 10 o'clock, which is the recommendation for me to not serve drinks, I'm gonna fail again because they're not gonna eat without a drink. And from a safety perspective, the alcohol's always been there. The difference is that I'll have the ability to sell it, and then the city will get their tax on it. So it's hopefully a revenue stream for the city too. Because right now they're drinking but not paying. That's it.
Thank you for that. Did we have public comment? Commission, if there's no objection, I'll take the public comment and then we'll move into questioning of staff and the applicant. No objection, so let's go ahead and take the public comment for this item. Ms. Pat Brown.
I came here to speak about the property up on Oxnard Boulevard that used to be the Levitt's furniture store, but that's not happening right now. So what I did want to tell you is, if you don't drive up and down Oxnard Boulevard very often, you'll never know. But if you do, you know well. We have traffic, and it seems to be getting worse in the last couple of weeks. And I've been here since 1993, so doing the same thing all the time. So I can tell it's a great difference right now. And I don't know why. But I was thinking, oh my gosh, here we are. We're going to put in all this housing that's going to be in a tower type thing, 5 stories up. We're going to put in several of those along Oxnard Boulevard where the old...
I'm sorry, but this item is in regards to a special use permit for an alcohol license.
I cannot hear you.
This is an alcohol license special use permit. That's the item that we're on right now.
I didn't mean to talk on an alcohol. Is that where you put me? I didn't write anything about alcohol.
Okay, so what exactly did you just want general public comments?
This is just a general public comment.
Okay,
but
so
it's a piece that you should know for the future.
okay, so this is what I'm gonna do, Pat. We're gonna finish this item.
Okay.
And then I'll honor your
Okay.
time to go
Okay.
ahead and speak on just
Okay.
general comments, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So, we didn't have anyone else requesting to speak on this item, correct? No? Okay.
No, that's correct.
All right, so we'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission for any questions to either our staff, our officer that's joining us this evening, or the applicant team. Commissioners?
And Chair Travis, just really
Yes.
quickly, I also want to mention that, yes, we do have Steve Ramirez here joining us from the police department, but also Scott Swinson, who's also with our police department. So
Thank you for
just
that.
wanted to make you aware of them.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash?
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Okay, so a question for staff. Could you explain to me the difficulty of the applicant parking his food trucks in his parking lot? I don't understand the conflict.
So that is a project that we're currently working on that may come before the commission at some point. But essentially, it's in relation to the number of parking. The site currently is legal non-conforming as it relates to parking. So as with any project, they are required to provide a parking study that shows that sufficient parking would be there, even with the loss of the parking associated with the storage of the food trucks.
So I am to take it that there is no conflict if he parks his food trucks in the parking lot?
So that's not a part of this project, however. So at least as it relates to this permit, the food trucks will not affect this permit. But there will be a project that may come before the commission in the future where there may be a request for reduction in the amount of parking on site.
Okay, I also have a question about the potential of people crossing Oxnard Boulevard. Did you have any discussion with traffic or Public Works about the possibility of installing a crosswalk or a signalized intersection?
So Commissioner Nash, for this project, we did not, because this is just the use permit. So the restaurant itself can function there as currently permitted. It was previously permitted as a restaurant. It can continue to operate as a restaurant. The request before the commission today is just to be allowed to sell alcohol. So we typically would not request those type of improvements with the alcohol use permit.
Okay, one final question, and that involves the hours of operation. Now, the police department wants to end alcohol sales at 10 o'clock at night, which I understand. The applicant mentioned the possibility of a compromise. Do we have any leeway on granting a compromise or working out some sort of compromise? I'm not in favor of extending the alcohol sales all the way up to 1, but I think we've done it before where we stopped alcohol sales at like 11:30 and with the business closing at 12. So I don't know if that's possible in this situation.
I don't know if Joe wants to start off with that response.
I was just going to note that Scott Swinson has also raised his hand. So
We'll have Scott Swenson, who actually completed the alcohol SUP report on behalf of the police department. And then if there's anything that he can't respond to, I'll try to add into there.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Our biggest concern with restaurants who operate and sell alcohol after 10 o'clock and they're in near proximity to residences is that entertainment often gets involved, and then you end up having band members hanging out in the parking lot making noise, a lot of activity going on, sometimes some noise escaping the site. And so an alcohol stop sign earlier tends to reduce the potential for that kind of impact on neighboring businesses. We found, in fact, Corporal Ramirez did some visits to the nearby residents, and they were in very good stead with the applicant. They thought very highly of him. But when we write these permits, it sticks with the land, not with the business. So we have to think of what's going on in the future with whoever may take over the site. Should this applicant, move on. And 10 o'clock is kind of our normal stop sign for alcohol at restaurants, unless they can clearly show that their activities are not going to disturb neighboring issues. And entertainment, dancing, and those kind of things are likely to do that when you have residents nearby. Even when you have friendly residents nearby, you don't know what the turnout over is going to be of those residents, particularly if there's transient type dwelling units, apartments and such. You may have somebody trying to get their small children to sleep at a reasonable hour, and if there's music, escaping the business, that becomes a problem. I recognize that the applicant did a nice investigation looking at other sites that had comparable business hours. But in the case of several of them, they don't have residences right nearby, or if they do have residences, the residents well knew those businesses were in place and were potential night spots for activity. So we're kind of in an interesting spot here, and I don't think we're against some sort of midpoint, but you know, there's a curiosity here of how late are these events that the applicant's hosting, and how late do they normally go? And we may find some common ground, but as it stands right now, we have a lot of concern about alcohol service and activities that go along with that after 10 o'clock.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Rizal. Is it within our purview to include a condition that would require in the change, in the event of a change of ownership, that we could revisit the alcohol permit as far as operating hours are concerned?
Unfortunately, as Mr. Swenson pointed out, the permit runs with the land. So clearly there's a comfort level with this particular operator, but if he closed and someone else stepped into the shoes before the permit expired, then they would get those particular hours. But it is within your right to impose, reasonable conditions on that. And if you can articulate the basis for later hours, that's something the commission can do if that's a desire to do so.
But we can't do anything in the event of a change of ownership.
If there was a change of ownership, then if there was issues with the new operator, then we need to go through a revocation process, which we have done before, and sometimes shutting them down. So that is within the city's rights and the commission. But unfortunately, you cannot, because this is a permit that runs with the land. You can't make it expire at a certain point in time. The case law is clear on that point.
Okay, thank you very much for pointing that out. I have a question for the applicant, if you want to step up to the podium.
Is it okay to respond to what you just asked, Mr. Nash? Yeah.
Yes.
I understand the concern that the city and the police department have 100%. One, my history shows that even with alcohol being there till my closing time of 1 o'clock, there hasn't been issues. The neighbors have responded that there haven't been issues. But I also learned that at the end of the day, the Alcohol Beverage Control Board will cancel my license if there's issues. If there are enough issues that are reported by the police department where people are fighting or there's ruckus or whatever you want to call it, they basically, they don't renew your license. And because of that, all of our dinner services, there's always a guard. A lot of locations in Oxnard do not honor the 1 for 50 people because they don't want to pay. I charge a higher per plate rate to customers so that they have a guard there. And that's one of the reasons that we've never had an issue, not in 6 years. But what I can tell you is based on what you shared that in the question that if there's issues, the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, they're just going to cancel my license. I'm also not going to allow my business to be in that position because I've spent $60,000. That is what it's costing me right now to get my liquor license. 7 years ago, I paid $6,000 on a deposit for a liquor license. I lost that money because I tried to go to the city, not with yourself, but with previous planners, and they wouldn't respond. And then my time timed out, and I lost my $6,000. I've been trying to get this for almost 1.5 years. So I have a lot to lose. I also cater, if you saw the photos, I'm doing dinner services primarily for kids or a birthday or an anniversary. It's not crazy. I think the worst thing that we would ever have is a karaoke. With regards to noise, in the report it mentions that noise can escape through windows and what have you. My building is a concrete building, and none of my windows open. I actually have no windows on the left side of the building and no windows on the right side of the building. So the noise escapes to Oxnard Boulevard.
Thank you for that,
yeah.
but you understand how it's our job to protect the quality of
100%,
life
100%.
for the people living adjacent to you.
Yeah.
So what sort of compromise would you be willing to meet? Because I am not in favor of granting an alcohol permit that extends to 1 a.m. on weeknights. That is just not. I know Oxnard, and that's just not.
Typically,
how
dinner
Oxnard operates.
typically dinner events will either happen on a Friday or on a Saturday. I had to fill out that application and just put a general time of what I wanted. We typically close at 1, and according to the ABC board, is you must stop liquor licenses half an hour before you close. You can't allow them to consume because you have to give them time. If we close at 1, would the commission consider allowing me to stop selling at 12:30? When that happens, you have to advise people at 12 o'clock that they have 30 minutes to get their last drink, and then you cannot sell drinks after that.
I think the commission's precedent is stopping sales at 11:30. Would you be okay with that?
I would. The challenge is then there would be no reason for me to be open at 1 o'clock because people won't consume. I mean, they're going to continue to consume because then after the 11:30, they're allowed to bring in alcohol. And the problem is the customer knows that. The customers are really smart in this area about alcohol. They know their rule of what you can do. I asked the ABC board, and they said that you can charge them a fee. It's a corkage fee.
I can appreciate the dialogue.
Sorry. Oh,
but
sorry.
all
Yeah.
conversations need to come through the chair and the commission. Okay, thank
Would
you.
Would the panel be okay? I don't want to be open till 1 a.m. during the week at all because I'm serving senior citizens from 7 a.m. till about 4. Would the commission approve me to be open from 4 to 11 o'clock Monday through Thursday, and then stop my alcohol sales Friday and Saturday at 12? Sunday, we didn't even request on our original application. On Sundays, we want to be closed by 9 o'clock. So it would be.
We'll take that under
Okay,
deliberation.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not open till 1 on Sundays, so, okay. It's just
you.
Friday and Saturday.
That's all, Chair. for
Thank
right
you.
now. Thank you.
Any additional questions? I have a few questions. Let me see, where do I start first? Let's start with our. Well, that one kind of already got answered. So, Corporal Ramirez, comments were made by the applicant in regards to service calls and that he feels that many of his calls increase the number of issues or might have beefed up the numbers. Is there any truth behind that, or how is it determined that a particular area has issues or problems?
I think Scott Swenson can respond directly to the crime statistics as well as the calls for service at his location because he's the one who did the research on that.
Okay, Mr. Swenson.
Thank you. In this particular case, first of all, it's a commercially zoned area, which is probably going to have 2.5 times the average crime rate of the city-wide rate, so he's not abnormally high, and I have no concerns about the calls for service at the business. both Corporal Ramirez and I have a clear understanding of the homeless issues, and businesses all over the city making those kind of calls, and that didn't count against the business at all. The biggest issue is the nearby residents and the crime stats is just a pro forma requirement of this alcohol special use permit process is laid out by the council resolution that set it up.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. I also had a question in regards to the permit's lifespan. ABC license or alcohol permits that come from the city, how long are they for? A year, 2 years? How long do they typically last for?
Is that question for me?
Yes.
In the case of the alcohol special use permit, it goes with the land unless there's a significant period of time where it's not used. So if the site goes vacant without making use of the permit, and I believe the way the ordinance is written, it's 6 months, then the new operator, if they come in after 6 months, would have to get a new alcohol special use permit. In the case of the ABC license, there is no set time span. As long as they operate in good standing and pay their annual fees, they can continue to operate. In fact, we have a number of licenses in the city that I believe have operated for like 50 years.
Okay, I appreciate that. I only asked that question because it was mentioned by Mr. Roselle, an expiration date of a permit, but thank you for that additional information. I'm also curious, what was the type of feedback that you were receiving from the business owners in the community when you were doing your outreach, Mr. Swenson?
I did a couple of contacts and they were positive, and Corporal Ramirez did a couple contacts and, or actually probably more than a couple, and they were also positive.
Corporal Ramirez, any of the contacts that you made, did any of them give you the impression that they would have a concern with a special use permit for alcohol at this location?
No. So in going around to the surrounding businesses as well as the residents behind, nobody really had a concern regarding the establishment being open late nights, having an alcohol permit specifically. They actually, some of the residents behind have a good relationship with him in the neighborhood, and welcomed his business there.
This is going back to Mr. Swenson. What is the city's average stopping time for alcohol special use permits for businesses that are similar to this one? And
it's hard to define similar to, because he's working. His currently a business model is more as an event center, which maybe Mr. Pearson could speak a little bit more clearly about, because the zoning issues with event centers are different than regular restaurants. ABC does not have a license set up for event centers, as far as I know. They're restaurants and bars, and it depends on the setting. When the facility is not near, and when I say near, within 150, 200 feet of residences, nightclub activities don't impact nearby residents. So saying what is normal depends on the site. I will tell you, historically, going back to the 70s when I started with the PD, we had a number of places in the city where we had bars and restaurants that were within 100 feet of residences, and they were heavy call generators. And I'm referring to the Hueneme Road area, the Cooper and Hayes area, and the South Oxnard Boulevard area further south than Sal's is. That problem does not exist in those areas anymore, because either the businesses got closed down for problem activities, or attrition or other issues, and we don't have significant problems from those alcohol outlets that still remain near those residential areas. But those were great learning experiences that actually prompted the creation of the council resolution that generated the alcohol special use permit process.
I appreciate that. Mr. Pearson, actually, hold on. Sorry. Corporal Ramirez, another conversations that you were having with the applicant, you mentioned, well, he mentioned that after 11:30, the patrons could end up bringing in their alcohol. And you provided some comments to him. Can you just reiterate that now that you're in front of the podium as to what happened in the council chambers?
So right now he's running under he's using this other ABC. It's not even a license. It's just a procedure that allows them to, when they're providing this type of dinner service, to allow people to bring their own alcohol in, as long as he doesn't charge them. But what's going to change is when he gets his ABC license, he's actually going to be as a licensed establishment, right? And then so I have not seen a licensed establishment with a 47 type like he wants say, hey, we're going to sell alcohol till 1 a.m., but I want to be able to defeat that condition, and now I'm going to go with the ABC rule 23, whatever it was. I've never seen it, and I don't know if Scott has ever seen that as well.
Yeah, there's actually a provision with ABC that if you're a licensed premise and you want to do a private party event and have people bring in alcohol from the outside, you have to turn in your license for that day. And it's got to be a totally private event, not open to the public. And then you get your license back the next day. We've had that occur a couple of times while I've been serving in this alcohol position. It's not real common because it's not widely known, but once you get that alcohol license, you're living by that alcohol license, and the bringing in your own alcohol is forbidden. And in fact, in the case of the licensee, they can only buy from an authorized licensed distributor that's licensed to distribute alcohol in California through ABC.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Swenson, last question for you. And slide number 10 of the staff report, it says police report summary. Second bullet point says site is not considered to be a policing problem subject to the conditions of approval. No safety concerns noted by the beat coordinator or neighboring businesses. Do you believe that if the commission approves the staff's recommendations, that there will be no safety concerns in this area?
Probably the only safety concern I really have is if they end up drawing crowds big enough to have, their guests parking across the street and crossing Oxnard Boulevard. We've actually had several fatal pedestrian accidents already this year due to people crossing the large boulevards, whether they be Oxnard Boulevard or Saviors or Ventura Road. And it is a clear hazard to do that because there is no, designated crossing and it's mid-block. If their patrons say pretty much in his parking lot and they don't have larger crowds than that, I don't see a huge problem with it.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to turn to our staff for a couple of questions. One question's and it was brought up multiple times, in the concerns of proximity to residential. On what slide is this? I'm assuming it's 7 since it's not numbered. It says existing and surrounding uses. It says the project is zoned for general commercial plan development. To the north is heavy manufacturing, M2, but has existing residential. South is General Commercial Plan Development C2, which has an existing vehicle sales. To the east is General Commercial Plan C2, which is an existing motel. And then to the west is a General Commercial Plan Development C2 PD Retail. In terms of the residential, it was mentioned, but are they, non-conforming because of the current area?
So Church Office, yes, those residences are currently legal non-conforming. They were, again, constructed legally, but since that time, the city has changed the zoning designation in that area.
Thank you for that. I want to, and then for this particular, because it is asking for an event, it's more of an event type of business that's more specialized. What is the required number of parking spaces for this particular business type?
Yeah, so this business itself is approved as a restaurant. So the parking numbers essentially go back to the Sal's restaurant, which was there before, and again, functions primarily as a restaurant. So the parking number that's applied to this business currently is a restaurant parking number. If you did switch to more of an event center or any type of place that did offer things like dancing and those type of things, the parking number becomes significantly higher. So parking for this business right now is one space for every 75 square feet. So there's approximately about 70 spaces required, and they have currently about 40. So they're currently legal non-conforming as it relates to parking. So any further reductions would require approval of a parking reduction by the Planning Commission.
Now, based off of the applicant's submitted application, was it submitted in terms of a restaurant or an event center?
So this is, our understanding is a restaurant. While there may be events that happen at a restaurant, but the primary function is a restaurant.
Now, should the commission be looking at it when deciding on the special use permit in terms of a restaurant, or as mentioned by PD, as an event center?
So this business, again, it would be a restaurant is how this is essentially approved or previously approved and has functioned over the years, would be primarily a restaurant use.
Thank you for that. A couple of questions for the applicant. On your own time, what type of community outreach have you done?
So our smaller business has, as far as reaching out to,
In terms of this of your application for a special use permit?
we have a great relationship with our neighbors. The hotel that is near us has a few challenges. The budget, I think it's the Budget Garden Inn. That community is very close, at least the 6 people that are around us. The 2 people that are behind us are the apartment complex. Whenever we have dinner service, we always reach out to them to make sure that there's no issues. But we require dinner service for everything that we do. So it's not something crazy that is happening. We've reached out to the glass company, which is right next door. They close at 5 o'clock every day, so we only interlap with each other for 1 hour. The motel is interesting. I don't know if you've heard of the motel, but it has a very interesting group of people there. I don't really interact with them a lot, but I do interact with the owner. It's usually me encouraging the owner not to let people kind of go into the area. And I know every one of my neighbors behind me, which is not a lot, it's 3. The majority of the businesses within 800 feet of me all close between 5 and 7 o'clock. They're not open because it's a commercial area. We have mechanics. an auto parts store, a car dealership, a wedding store, and a haircut place. There's a feed store. Everyone closes early except myself.
Okay. What are your current hours?
So our events or dinner service will go from 4 to 1 or 4 to 12. Hours that we serve senior citizens, we're there as early as 6 in the morning. We don't ever have people come in. We're just making meals for the senior centers. That typically takes us from 6 in the morning to about 3 o'clock.
Okay. You have live music or is it DJs?
It's typically, if we've had anything, it's a speaker. We're not allowed to have live music.
So you're not having bands
No,
or band members hanging around?
You can't have that without a permit. So I don't want to have an issue.
The requested hours, you said that on Sundays you guys are closing at 9?
We requested from 9 to 9 on Sundays.
Okay.
I'm okay with it being less because I don't think we've ever been past 5 o'clock.
And on Friday and Saturday, you said that you wanted to close at what time?
At 1 o'clock.
Are you willing to compromise sooner than that?
Yes.
During the other days, what are you looking at to close at? This is Monday through Thursday.
Mondays, we typically did not want to be open because we need to have a day off. Because we're constantly working.
So Tuesday through Thursday is?
11 o'clock. Even then, the alcohol would not be served till 11 because you can't serve it till the closing time. You have to serve it, you have to stop at least half an hour before you close.
Okay.
So it's really our Friday and Saturday that's the most crucial for us to stay in business.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions? Commissioner Meyer.
Great, thank you, Chair. So let's see, I'm wanting to get clarity then on what options we have. This would be a question for you, Mr. Pearson, around customizing hours. I don't know how much we want to be involved with that. What do we have a precedent for that, and would that create a problem if this creates a precedent for, these days we have these hours, these days we have these hours? Is that really under our purview, or do we generally want to have 7 a.m., 10 p.m. every day? That's the window of the business, and they can decide how much they want to be open within that.
Commissioner Meyer, the alcohol use permit is at the discretion of the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission does have the ability to place any conditions that it deems appropriate within reason on this alcohol use permit. So yes, it does help to simplify it when it is just kind of a straight across the board set of hours, but in this circumstance or in circumstances where it does warrant, there can be kind of the weekend hours versus weekday hours. I think that's not kind of out of line.
Great, thank you, Mr. Pearson. In that case, I'm interested in seeing if we can craft this, because Friday and Saturday are the key days that are a concern, and of course those are not school or work nights in the largest sense in terms of what we're looking at as far as concern for the residents that are nearby. So I think that's the key for me. Seeing that we can be customizing, maybe we can craft a solution that's mutually acceptable. So I think that's all that I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Commissioner DeZelzor.
Thank you. My question is, based on the research that were done on this paperwork that we have here in front of us, these are all done within that period wherein there's no alcohol being served in this neighborhood. So I was wondering how, or how does it look like in terms of safety for the neighborhood prior to the 6 years that it's empty? Thank you.
And I think that, Commissioners, I think that Scott Swenson can address some of those questions. In in the alcohol SUP, which is submitted by the police department, there are locations within the immediate area that do serve alcohol. So and is your question specifically this building? Or do
Yes,
you?
that building, because I pass by that area all the time when it was open back in the day, and I used to see people turning, like making an illegal U-turn on that neighborhood coming from that restaurant. So that's why I was just wondering how the safety would look like, because now there's more residential areas in that neighborhood compared to back then when it was open as a restaurant serving alcohol. So I was just wondering how the safety, or the noise and the safety concern in terms of like pedestrian or illegal turns coming from that restaurant look like.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a lot of different dynamics when you talk
Yeah.
about 6 years ago or to
Yeah.
when Sal's Mexican Food was open. And the dynamics are this. Crime was different 6 to 10 years ago. Those large apartment complexes that are around the corner from this location wasn't there. The clientele at the motel next door was a different type of clientele now. The density inside the commercial mobile home park wasn't as significant. So there's so many factors in that immediate area, including other establishments which have opened up. You have not Boil Norteño, but Tacos El Brother, which is a newer restaurant there that's opened up with alcohol. But there's so many changes within the time period you're speaking about, and so many different changes that you can't really make a comparison with those buildings with that time frame, the location. You can't.
Oh. I'm just concerned. No more questions.
Would I be able to give you some information regarding your concern on the U-turns?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
The concern with the safety and the pedestrians and the U-turns, I was able to find in a vault that they had there the previous parking layout. And I believe it was 1976 or 78. The two parking lots were changed. So you can only go in one direction now. They used to allow you to go in and out, but I think because there were car accidents before, I got to see the change in the plans. So when you drive in, you cannot drive back out. So when you come in from Oxnard Boulevard, you must make a left or a right through the alley. So cars can't do U-turns anymore. When we do any type of dinner service, we also do not let people exit through the front at all. That's a strict requirement. When we do any type of dinner service, there's a card that is very specific that we do not allow in and out. I should have brought it. Once you're in, you stay for dinner and what we have. And once you leave, you must exit through the back. And you can't go back to Oxnard Boulevard. So.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Nash.
If the applicant could come to the podium again, I just want to clarify these hours of alcohol sales. Monday, you're closed.
Yes, sir.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you would be okay with alcohol sales from 4 to 11.
Yes, it would mean that we would stop our alcohol at 10:30 because you have to close it before. You have to give people time to.
Friday and Saturday, you want from 4 to 12 or 4 to 1?
I want to be open 4 to 1. I would want it to be 4 to 12:30 to give us half an hour to let them not drink. Those are the two crucial days for my business.
And then Sunday, you want alcohol sales from 9 to 9?
I would be okay from 9 to 6.
9 to 6. Okay, thank you very much. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you, Chair.
Any additional questions? Since there is no additional public comments on this, we'll go ahead and move into deliberation unless staff has anything additional to provide. Mr. Swenson, anything
The
additional?
one comment I'd like to make is for the opening time or start time for alcohol sales, we like to keep it at 7 o'clock. So any future business that might go into this site has got that option without rewriting the permit.
And Chair Chavez, I would also just second what Mr. Swenson just mentioned. I think as we look at the hours, staff recommend that we just look at the closing hours, and then we can leave the morning hours again, just to allow that flexibility in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson and Mr. Pearson. All right, we'll go ahead and move into deliberations on this item. Who would like to start? Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. I'm ready to make a motion if we are done with the deliberation phase.
Anyone has deliberating comments? Let's go ahead and take Commissioner Meyer, and then we'll come back to you, Commissioner Nash. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair. I think my hope would be that we could discuss the hours that we're proposing, I guess, before the motion, but I'm wondering if you already have the hours in mind, Commissioner Nash. But that would be the question, so we don't get locked into a vote before we've kind of made our case.
I mean, even if a motion is put forth and second, you still have an opportunity to deliberate on it or amend. So for deliberating comments, I'll just say real quick before we start hearing motions is there were a few comments that were made that concerns me. And one of them was talking in regards to the proximity between the business and residential. And the first thing that popped into my mind when I heard that, and referring back to the applicant's presentation, was the corner pocket, which is right across the street from condos. We also have, they have events, they have alcohol, they have, in my opinion, a lot more homeless in the downtown area versus the proposed location. Another comment that was made in regards was that it is a safety concern for the residents, and that's why the alcohol permit needs to stop at 10 o'clock. The concern that I have with that's literally the first time since being on the commission that I have heard that an alcohol special use permit had to be stopped by 10 o'clock because of a concern to the proximity of residents. Did we not a while ago approve a special use permit for alcohol for Tacos Diablo in downtown Oxnard, which is in walking proximity to the senior apartments? And they close, I believe their operation stopped at 1 o'clock in the morning. Or Mr. Swenson, you want to correct me on that?
I think their stop sign is their stop time for sales and service is a lot earlier than that, and their proximity is quite a bit more than 150 feet, which is the nearest residence is about 100 feet from the back door of Azul. If you give me a moment, I can look up in my files to see what the stop time is for Tacos El Diablo.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, give me a moment.
Here's my concern is that we've heard a lot about setting precedents and not overstepping staff and PD. And 100% I agree. I would always side with PD and their recommendations on everything. But for this particular one, where you have a large support from the surrounding community, businesses and residents, it concerns me that we are essentially shortchanging an applicant. Times change, we're aware of that. Times change everywhere throughout our city. We don't live in the communities that we remember when we were younger. Socially, our communities have gone downward. I believe that this business, because they have been actively involved with the community, supporting community organizations, as well as supporting one of our vulnerable populations, our seniors, has demonstrated that they are willing to be a good partner and ensure that they are doing what is correct and follow whatever recommendation that we put forth. Mr. Swenson, did you get that information?
Yes, the hours for Tacos El de Apo are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So I'm okay with amending and changing the hours, you know, chopping them up by the days. What I'm not okay with is trying to shortchange a business who has already demonstrated for the past 6 years to be a good business partner to the community as a whole, not just this particular neighborhood, but to the city as well as to the county. And I'll leave my comments at that. Commissioner Nash.
I have a question for Mr. Rozelle, and that is, do we need a 4-0 vote for this to pass, or just a
Because this is the planning commission, not the city council, you just need a majority of the quorum, so it needs to be at least a 3-1 vote.
Okay. Thank you. So I guess I'm ready to make a motion then.
Commissioner Meyer.
Sure. I think for me, the focus is more about, you know, given that the residences do exist around the business in close proximity, it's more about how do we mitigate the impacts on them on weeknights, you know, the Sunday through Thursday time frame. Yeah, that's what I'll be focusing on in terms of supporting a motion, amending a motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, okay, I will move to approve the special use permit with the following change in conditions of approval number 16, I believe it is, which involves the hours of alcohol sales. And that would be in anticipation of a future owner. I'm not going to make a special case out of Monday. I will include Monday with Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Alcohol sales from 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Friday and Saturday, alcohol sales from 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. That would be 12:30 a.m., I'm sorry. And on Sunday, alcohol sales permitted from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I believe that was agreed upon with the applicant. So, pardon? Yeah, Sunday was, what did I say, 7 to 6? 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So changing that condition of approval, I will move that we find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to the CEQA, and that we adopt the resolution approving planning and zoning permit number 22-510-04, special use permit alcohol. I think I included everything that we needed.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve, to find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, Guidelines Section 15301, existing facilities, and adopt a resolution 2022-XX approving planning and zoning permit number 22-510-04, special use permit alcohol, subject to certain findings and conditions, with an amendment to condition of approval number 16, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, hours of alcohol 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 7 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Is there any deliberations on that motion? Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair. And I guess it would be, a commentary to my commissioners and then also maybe a confirmation from staff. I noticed that condition 45 is entertainment as defined by Oxnard City Ordinance, so on and so forth, is allowed provided it does not disturb neighboring uses. So if we were to approve this SUP as proposed and then find that it is disturbing neighboring uses, then the city has the case to be able to rescind or revoke that permit?
There's a number of steps beforehand with citation, with working with the owner, but if it became a problem, then yes, there would be a public hearing for revocation in those situations. And that's, as you know, that's rare, but that can happen from time to time.
Okay, thank you, counsel. So I would say for myself, that would assuage any concerns about this being something that we've created that we then can't control, and that could lead to undesired impacts that that can't be rectified. So I'm open to supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional deliberations? Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to take a moment and just say to the applicant that I hope that we found an acceptable compromise that will allow your business to prosper and also to protect the businesses and the residents who live adjacent to you. So I hope that we got it right. Thank you.
Any additional deliberation? Seeing and hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Nash?
Aye.
Commissioner Seelsdorf?
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yes.
Chair Chavez?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. We'll go ahead and proceed with our agenda. Item G, study sessions and report. Nothing is listed. Item H, planning commission business. Commissioners, any business to bring before the commission? Commissioner Meyer.
Chair Chavez, I just wanted to mention that we were going to let Ms. Pat Brown speak, or do you want to do that at a different time?
Thank you for reminding me. Ms. Brown, I apologize.
I moved out here in the fall of 1993, and it wasn't very long, maybe a year or two after that, I was asked to be on a committee for alcohol problems. And what we did is we would have meetings at least once or twice a month. And every time there was a new alcohol policy, a new permit being requested, we had to have a meeting and have a discussion about it. And then we'd have to send out a couple of people to the location to go through it all, meet with the owners and all kinds of stuff. I mean, this went on and on. And about this same time was when there was a thrifty drugstore. Now that takes you back. There isn't anymore. A thrifty drugstore that was in in the downtown area, and they had this beer tower with the six packs, and they made a tree out of it, kind of a thing, shape, right inside the door. And what was happening was we kind of hung around because we'd gotten word that this was happening there and at other places. So one or two of us would kind of hang around, or we'd go in, maybe buy something and come back out and, trade off places and stuff. But here were young kids. These were teenagers. And they would walk in, grab the six pack, run. And the crowd was already in the car with the motor running just outside, within a few feet outside the door. They would run, get in, and they were gone. We witnessed it. And we told them, the Thrifty Drug, to do something about it, and they didn't for quite a while. They were just letting it go, and I don't know why. And also, about that time, all the alcohol was towards the back of the stores. And the problem was that the doors were open. They were in coolers, and the doors were open, and you could get in and take anything you wanted. The kids would find a way to go out the back door. The stuff just disappeared. So that's when then they started, in some of the stores, they started bringing the alcohol part was up front and a separate counter. And that way they had full control over you. You couldn't get out of there without paying for it. So because it was on the shelves behind the counter, and they would have to get it for you, and you would have to pay for it before they gave it to you. So we went through a number of years with a fellow that has retired now that was with the police force, and it was quite an experience. And I don't think they've been coming up with as many new alcohol beverage locations for sale in the last few years. They haven't had as many as we had them. We had them all the time, constantly.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
So
That's your time.
don't feel bad about making me wait. But I just want to leave you guys with something, a thought. We are getting into a position where on Oxnard Boulevard, there's these old used car lots that are all empty. And this stretches quite a distance.
Ms. Brown, I'll give you 10, maybe 15 seconds if you could
Okay.
just wrap it up.
Okay. They're empty now. We're going to be putting in housing. It's going to go up maybe 5 stories in some of this. What are we going to do about the parking? We can't park on the street. So we're going to have parking for these places. We are right now having a terrible, terrible time with parking. In my mobile home park, right near there, cars are double parked in the middle of the street.
Thank you, Ms.
Because
Brown.
there's just no place to park. So we might think about what are we going to do about that in the future, because it's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Brown,
you.
for your comments. Okay. With that, we'll return back to Planning Commission business, and Commissioner Meyer.
Great, thank you, Chair. So I think everybody in this room knows, but this is, well, at least as far as I'm aware, this is my last meeting as a planning commissioner. And so it's been really an honor and a privilege for the past 3.5 years to get to work with all of you, from our distinguished staff to my fellow commissioners. And I guess it's something where I found I learned quite a bit being a planning commissioner about the operation of the city, about how decisions are made. And I would just encourage all Oxnard residents to consider applying to be part of a commission, a committee, to be involved civically in that kind of a servant leadership kind of way, because you learn a lot about how our democracy operates, and often I think it's a very good restorative as far as faith in other people, faith in our processes. So just a plug, and hopefully we'll have plenty of applicants for our planning commission to choose from going forward. But it's been an honor, it's been a privilege, and who knows, maybe I'll be back someday. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you. And Commissioner Meyer, you've been a great commissioner. Your experiences have brought a lot to the to this dais. So I greatly appreciate your contribution to the betterment of Oxnard. That's what we're all here for, and you've done a great job. So thank you.
Commissioner Zelzor.
Yes, I've met you for a short time, but thank you for everything that you've done so far. I've seen the videos, and thank you for everything.
Well, Commissioner Meyer, it has truly been a privilege to serve with you. I have learned a lot to always try to push for solar panels on our constructions that take place in our city, because it is important to think about as we are doing our constructions. You know, we've heard multiple times our power grid system having issues, and you know, solar could be that answer to that problem. So thank you for serving with me, serving the community. You know, it's a lot of time invested, you know, time away from our families to be able to be here and do the good work on behalf of our fellow community members. Let me see, what was it, 2 months or a few months into me joining the commission, me and you had the opportunity to go to the League of California Cities for the Planning Commission Academy right before the world shut down, because that's when COVID came around, and we powered through the online meetings, where wasn't always the funnest thing, but you'll definitely be missed. I always appreciate your cool, collective, and levelness when you're deliberating comments. So thank you for being on the commission, and hopefully one day you would consider coming back either to this commission or to another commission, and your comments in regards for people getting involved is 100%. People should get involved because you do learn a lot. You know, I used to think that decisions were made by a wave of a hand, and council told staff, do this, do that, and it should have been done. But there's process, there's steps, and there's rules that you have to follow. Otherwise, you get sued. So thank you for being on the commission. I would just say real quick that Candy Lane is open for the public. Please be respectful of the property owners who have their displays up. And if you are driving through the area, please have patience and drive safely through the area. There are some areas that are pretty dark, and we do have families with young children walking through the area. So we will want to be respectful and show some patience, especially since this is the time of giving. So patience is virtue. Any additional comments? Commissioner Meyer.
Sure, just want to acknowledge that to Chair Chavez that you've really been an exemplary model of a chair, a committee chair, and I think the meetings have run exceptionally smoothly with your leadership, and I think the professionalism that you lead our group with is very helpful. So I want to acknowledge that, appreciate that, and yeah, I've enjoyed working with you as well. I've had some interesting meetings and conversations, and a lot of challenging items brought up from all different aspects of this work, and so learned a lot working with you, and to agree on some things, respectfully disagree on other things, but have, you know, civility throughout. That's been a pleasure for me.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Meyer. With that, we'll turn to our community development staff updates. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Chair Chavez and Commissioners. Couple things. We did have 2 additional staff members start this week, so we're very excited to have them. Alex and Evan, they are our new assistant planners. So we're working at building back up towards a full staff, but again, very excited to have them join our team. So again, it sounds like they're excited to be here as well. And then also just generally, as we're here at the end of the year, just to thank you guys for your guys' kind of support as I've transitioned into this role. You guys kind of being there and helping me through it and being patient as I've learned the process and the different steps that are required is very much appreciated. So just want to, again, thank you all the commissioners for that support. And Meyer, you will definitely be missed. Again, your input to all of these projects have been appreciated and thoughtful. So again, it's been a pleasure and looking forward to continue to work with the commission in the upcoming year. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson, and that just reminds me that this is our last meeting of the calendar year. Our next meeting wouldn't be until January 5th of 2023. So we appreciate all of staff's hard work. 24? We appreciate all of staff's hard work. Mr. Pearson, it's been a privilege to work alongside you through your transition, as well as Mr. Roselle. I know I've had to reach out to him quite a few times so that I don't get into trouble. We are excited to have new staff members join our team. That way we can lessen some of the workload on the others. And we are appreciative of our commission secretary. I believe this is her first time solo. So she did great, so good job. And happy holidays to everyone for whatever holiday you celebrate. This is that time. And Commissioner Nash, do you mind just standing up so that people can see that sweater? I mean, it's an amazing sweater. So thank you to all of our staff, even Diego, our guru in the back that keeps us able to see the world and when I'm not touching and breaking the monitors. So with that, if there's no objection to adjournment, we will be adjourning to our next meeting, which is January 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m. right here in the council chambers. As always, stay safe, thank you, and happy holidays to all.